Welcome to the Microdosing for Healing podcast. I'm your host, Casey Garrett, and together we'll be discovering and learning from inspiring voices of healers, medicine keepers, and visionaries. Every episode, we'll explore the world of health, vibrant wellness, and natural medicine for a new era of human society. Welcome to today's episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Microdosing for Healing podcast. This is our first episode of our fresh season of season 2. We have been gone for a minute, but we're back now. And very excited to be joined today by our lifetime coach, community member, and teacher in our microdosing facilitator training program, Lynda Samphire today. We thought it would be really fun to open up the new season with kind of a state of a union of microdosing practice right now. We were reflecting back on, when we founded this community 5 years ago, it was kind of the height of the pandemic. People were largely locked down, and we're clearly in a whole different and equally challenging era today. And we're really noticing in our guideship practices that people are really needing different things in their microdosing practice than they did 5 years ago. We're watching people move through the process. We're seeing people receive really remarkable benefits in a very short amount of time than we have seen in the past. And so we wanted to kind of dive into these nuances of real world practice with you today to give you a kind of snapshot if you're just beginning practice or if you are returning to practice after some time away. So welcome. Thank you, Lynda, for being with me.
Thanks, Casey, for having me. I'm excited to be here, have this conversation. Thank you so much.
Yes, lots to talk about. So one of the things we wanted to open up right from the start is, this will come as no surprise to all of you, the world is getting extremely intense. The kind of energy of the overculture, there are big shifts and changes, some wanted, some unwanted. There's a lot of uncertainty right now. And we're noticing that people are coming to practice with an extremely high level of anxiety right now, dysregulation. And one of the defining practices of our year, I think, is going to really establishing a strong sense of balance, centeredness, and emotional regulation, which when you're coming to microdosing practice will largely dictate how you open up your practice from the start. So one big shift that we're going to talk about is which microdosing medicine to begin with. As many of you know, my love is psilocybin mushrooms. We have largely focused on psilocybin mushroom microdosing for the past 5 years, but we have this year been starting to incorporate education around different medicines. One of them is Lynda's love and expertise in Amanita muscaria. So we're finding right now a lot of people really benefited in particular right now by weaving Amanita into your existing practice or introducing and opening a microdosing practice up with Amanita. So I'd love to turn it over to Lynda to share a little bit about Amanita, how she is different than psilocybin, and also what she's seeing right now in her practice and clients in our community that are leading us to sometimes start people off with Amanita.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to talk about Amanita. I started with these medicines back in 2021, and the natural entry point was psilocybin, right? Yes, there was freneticness outside of us, but it wasn't unstable. Where we were, and what I've seen is we were focusing on what's outside of us. We're still in that conditioned state, our feeling conditions out here. Well, then this became unstable. And so then we're like, okay, well, we can't come inwards, we can't go outwards. And that nervous system is so dysregulated. So I began working with Amanita about 3 years ago. And because of this, and how she works is she works with our GABA and glutamate. So think of glutamate as our on switch to the brain and GABA as our off switch. So working directly with that central nervous system. So when we're dysregulated, that nervous system is dysregulated, that glutamate pedal is stuck down like the gas pedal in your car, and it can't come up because this is overexhausted. At that point, we feel emotionally fatigued, insomnia, functioning anxiety. And I found going straight into psilocybin, which brings up even more emotions, we were not able, the integration, it wasn't able to land because our nervous system was gripping. And I started noticing people were showing up for ceremonies, they were journaling, they were doing all their work, showing up, as something wasn't landing. And it was that gripping of the nervous system. And so I really started noticing that landscape changing in 2025. And people began arriving in emotional heaviness. The body needed to be restored first before healing. So we're not just healing trauma now, we're healing emotional and nervous system fragmentation. And then that's where we can come in, where Amanita tills the field. And then psilocybin can come in and aerate. So we're going to get ourselves regulated to a place first, which I think is so needed now, and just learn how to come inwards and feel safe. So that's the depletion of the nervous system and gripping and landing. So important now. And then we can move into psilocybin, we can come in. So I feel like Amanita came in at a time where she's needed. These medicines show up, and she is the medicine of our time right now, where she is an elder and a wise one, and she's going to hold us and guide us and put us in this beautiful place of restoration so that we can move into healing the trauma that is stuck in there, the resistance that we're moving through. So, yeah.
Beautifully said. I think one of the biggest misconceptions we see, especially with people who are new to practice, is people are looking to psilocybin microdosing to remedy, to escape, to move through an uncomfortable feeling or emotion more quickly, when really it is big honesty. It's big truth. And so it's ideal if you're at a time in your life where you are ready for that, if you're wanting that, and most importantly, you're resourced to hold what is coming up. Whereas, as we know, we look out on the landscape of humanity right now, some people are definitely ready for that. Other people, as Lynda said, need to do some tilling of that soil, some preparation of the soil before you can get to that stage. And these medicines, I think that's why it's so important to have a community, a guide, a coach by your side to kind of help you talk through these things and really understand where you are in the season of life, how you prepare for the next cycle, and kind of where do you want to get to, and then work backward from that place.
Most definitely. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, we're such a quick fix culture, aren't we? And yeah, just a tad. And so when I see that in desperation, I'm looking at fear and the nervous system is dysregulated. And so that is not the time to go into psilocybin, because we're expecting that to come in as an escape or a fix. The importance of having space for that. I just had a client who has a lot of stuff coming up, wanted to try psilocybin. However, he's going in so many different directions right now, and his nervous system is high. He's moving completely into a different state. And so he doesn't have the space to work with those. So Amanita comes in. And then after settled, when he has more space, then we will bring that in to start working with the resistance. So I find that these long, slower containers are so important. And this is not a rush through. This isn't, take this, I feel better. This is taking moments for ourselves and really learning to slow down. We're really being asked to slow down right now. We're being asked to sleep, right? And just be simple. And that's where we need to come into these. When I see the desperation and the fixing right there, I really need this. I'm always going to go over to Amanita.
Mm,
Yeah. So we can feel held first. Yeah.
beautiful. Let's talk a little bit more about the patience factor and the intention behind having a longer container, because that's something we're definitely seeing too a lot this year as more people come into consciousness of psychedelic work and microdosing, especially in the medical and clinical communities. We're getting a lot of clients who come for microdosing, but in the background, they're having a lot of their other health professionals encouraging them to do quite large medicines like next weekend in 2 weeks. And a lot of people are moving from being on many pharmaceutical medications, have not yet begun to work with the underlying causes and reasons that they went on those medications in the first place, and trying to skip steps as we do as humans, especially here in America, right? We want to skip all the steps and get straight to the end. And a lot of times when they work with us in microdosing, there can be a frustration to people who want to go straight to the big medicine next weekend. But we have seen over and again and again and again, the more you hold these medicines with care and reverence and thoughtfulness along the way, you will get to that big, beautiful, transformative experience on the other side, but you will be able to hold it with much more grace and resourcing than if you would do it before you have created that grounding and preparatory work. So, Lynda, can you speak a little bit more from your perspective on this point, please?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up because this is kind of a thing right now. And that's the do it now, fix it now, get it over with, and then I can get on with my life. And again, what we're doing is we're bypassing a bunch of stuff, and then we're not restoring the body. The body's not in the nervous system is not restored. Our body's not in restoration so that we have something safe to come back to after we've had this huge experience. And yeah, we are seeing it where, people are holding space for like hundreds of people. And then there's no integration and there's no prep for it. We're just going into these blindly with ignorance in a sense of being a bit naive. And I find really marking a retreat on your calendar 6 to 9 to even 12 months ahead of time and working, like in your community in a container like that where we're prepping and we're really restoring the nervous system. We're working with maybe Amanita to begin with and then setting our nervous system up for that. I have a journey, a big one coming up and in October, and I've already started taking and integrating it through my dreams and bringing in things that I feel need to be in place before I can enter into that. Not that we're not going to be nervous, not that we're going to be fully prepared for it, but to have that longer period in front, I think is so important. We're preparing the vessel. And the vessel is not prepared right now to go into it with the freneticness outside, especially if we're on pharmaceuticals. Give time for your body to taper off, work with somebody to taper off of those, and then move into this retreat with reverence and respect and relation, right? Yeah.
Thank you. Another thing we've been seeing profoundly, and this has been so fun to witness. I've had two of these in the last 24 hours where um, both people we support, clients, members in our community, are just naturally, effortlessly coming to support others. It's very organically happening. This has always been the case, but it's happening more rapidly now.
Mhm.
It's the mycelium is taken over and it's time. And we need it now. So that's not a coincidence. And also the subtle but profound power we're seeing real time where it's you have your own experience with the medicine and you will get your own gifts and benefits and healing from the medicine, but to watch it ripple out into our families and communities has been really quite profound and remarkable this year. And so people will say things It's subtle, I noticed, but my kid's teacher said, did something shift at home because my child's behaving very differently in school right now. My spouse is saying I'm different. The grandkids notice that I remember their names for the first time ever. Like little things like that that are kind of rippling out into the community. So, Lynda, can you reflect a little bit on how this isn't something that's really talked about with microdosing practice, probably because it's something that we can never scientifically validate, right? We just have to see it and witness it. So, would love to get your thoughts on this.
Yes, beautiful. It's the energy that we are, right? It's the energy that we are. And when we're so conditioned to keep going outside of here and fix this, that's the illusion that that's actually going to happen. We're trying to control it here. When we come inwards, we're choosing that which is with our highest, aligned with our highest, which then ends up being highest for everybody around us because it's coming outwards. So going here ripples outwards energetically because theoretically as a collective we're one. And so when we heal ourselves, it was interesting. I was working with African Sangoma, and in their tribes, dreams, if you forget your dreams, you're sick. And so you would be taken by the elders and watched and worked with till your dreams came back. Because if you're sick, your whole village is sick. So you needed to be healed so the whole village could be healed. So it's an energy level. And when you think about it, you can be around someone who's, nervous system, they're very reactive, and that's going to set you off too. You're just going to feel it, especially those of us that are sensitive, empathic. We're going to be bouncing off of those, right? And so going inwards and healing is going to ripple out to our kids, to our coworkers, to our world in general, and then our world's going to change. Then we're going to start noticing difference in our spouses, in our children, and coming home in the afternoon or the evening from work, and everything feels calm. And I kind of enjoy being around them now. So it's here because of the energetic ripple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of energy, we have also witnessed again and again the people that have the most profound, timely experiences with the medicine are people who profoundly felt summoned to it. Sometimes they resisted, but it kept coming back. They're like, I couldn't get away from it. I kept seeing it in books and everywhere I go, it was in conversation. And so it was just time. And when we talk to people on the phone on their initial intakes, you can feel it. It's beyond the mind almost. It's not a mental thing. You can feel this readiness and their soul is on the precipice of something. And it just needs the medicine as like the key that turns this big shift in them. But ultimately, that energy and that dynamic is between you and the medicine and spirit, right? And we, our space holders and guides, are kind of the conduit and holder of that space. But ultimately, it's between you and the medicine. And that's why it's so challenging. We see a lot of people sometimes want to speak on behalf of another person, right? My child is struggling. Can the medicine save them? My spouse is having a really hard time. I know this can help them. Can you help them? Right. And so I'd love to get your reflection, Lynda, on why it can, but it often is greatly beneficial when the person who is working with the medicine feels that call from within and is stepping forward into practice versus kind of doing it by proxy.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it's funny. We do the medicines and we're like, oh, everybody needs to do this. You need to try this because this is what happened to me. Right. And we can see where then they're referring people and they're coming in and under maybe reluctancy because the medicines didn't call. And they're looking for the fixing. You're going to get a much different container. So medicines showed up for me too. There was a gnawing in the back, but it needed to be safe. And so I didn't force it. And I think one day I let something go out of my life. And then the next day your phone number came in. So it was, just that, again, that rippling effect. The medicines show up for us when we're ready. Now, can we share our stories with others? Where, yeah, I've just been doing this. This is what's happening, but not force it on another to fix them so that we feel better. Again, we're going outside, not in. And so we become the observed as we are the observers. And then when people begin getting curious about it and come in on their own, then they're meeting the relationship with the medicine. I never would have told you 10 years ago I'd be working with psychedelics ever. I was been in the healing arts forever. And I never would have told you 3 years ago, Amanita would be my medicine, my go-to medicine. And Amanita showed up. I think someone gave me a front doormat with Amanita on it. And then I received an Amanita mushroom. And then my medicine woman called me, we need to start working with Amanita. So it was just, you'll know it. And it'll be that it's not oh, should I, shouldn't I? You just know. And that's when you go into a container and the results and the outcome are going to be positive.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an invitation, not a prescription.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Yeah. So it's not a commodity in a sense either. It's something that, and I don't care where we get to in this psychedelic culture where it's more, the medicines are, in the end, they're going to be in charge in a sense, right? They're going to be the ones guiding, and they will meet you where you're at. So it doesn't matter, really.
Let's talk about that, because that's such an edge for a lot of people. And I share that repeatedly through the process. I tend to work with people in 6-week immersions, and it's funny, by the end they're like, I know the answer to this. And so as humans, we want to create certainty. We want to create consistency of experience, right? And when you're working, particularly when you're working with mushrooms, again and again, spirit has the final say. The mushrooms really lead, nature's lead, and a lot of it's kind of getting out of our own way and being in the passenger seat and letting nature to carry the experience. A lot of times it's so unfamiliar to us at the very beginning to kind of give over the process, give over all of the control. But in hindsight, I can tell you, like, people who've been in our community for a year, 2 years, 3 years can look back and see the wisdom of the medicine and go, that happened, played out in the perfect timing. Yes, it didn't happen as fast as I wanted it to at the beginning, but I wasn't ready to receive the gifts until the exact moment I was ready to receive them. So, yes. Yes.
So much. So, yeah, that there's so much beauty in what you just said and so much truth to it that it's almost words can't even come in and ground that, because we don't go in to step 7 when we're on step 2, right? Because we're not going to be ready for it. It's going to sabotage. It's going to feel really uncomfortable. We have to learn how to sit in the unknown and receive. What does it mean to be in receptivity to the medicine? What does that even mean? I sat in containers with seasoned guides, you being one of them, right? And you all had walked this path before me. And it was slow, and it was this reverent remembering. And even speaking about it gives me chills, because it asked everything of me, everything. And I gave. And it was uncomfortable, but I needed that place to feel safe and protected and sit in a place of the unknown where these medicines can guide me, where you're hearing, like, it's okay to just sit and stare at a tree. to reconnect and to not rush the process. The gifts that I have received, had I received them prior to the medicines, there's no way, because it's building a trust. It's about the trust within, so that then when you receive these gifts, then you can take it to the outside world and feel really, really grounded and confident and know it came from a place of higher spirit and something higher wisdom, something beyond us, right? Otherwise, we're missing that. So, yeah,
Mm, thank you.
yeah. I don't even know if that gave it justice, what I just
Thank
said.
you.
Yeah,
It's
because it really
absolutely.
is. It's a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I think one of the other things that I know we both feel passionate about is really setting the medicine, setting this practice, setting nature apart from just being in the mental health wheelhouse, right? And there's a place for that, absolutely. But I think enlarging our perspective, because when we keep it in the framework that we're conditioned in, right? We're constantly fixing what's broken. And I think zooming way out, what our society really needs is to not break people. Like, how about we not create the conditions that cause trauma, that cause depletion, that cause the burnout in the first place? And ultimately, at the end of the day, nature is kind of coming in to teach us these lessons, right? Not to fix what's broken, but how do we create a society that does not create broken people, right? And so
Mm.
that's the perspective a lot of times we are starting from. And it feels very confining and limiting to just talk about the trauma once it's already been manifested.
Yeah, digging into the story, excavating it, right? Going in and
Mm-hmm.
excavating it, and the fixing of the figuring out and fixing. That is a looping. That keeps us looping and in ruminating thoughts, and it just keeps us back there. And then the medicine's not working. And then we're going to pharmaceuticals or whatever we're going to, rather than really stepping back, observing ourselves, knowing that we're disconnected, we're dysregulated, and slowing down, simplicity, nature, um, the original teacher, the original teacher. But we're in this space where it's the quick fix, and we're conditioned that way. Um, so let's shut it all down. Let's just shut it all down. And now what we're seeing, because again, outside of here is so dysregulated, that's not working anymore. And so the need for coming inward, coming back to self, and we're fine. We're right here. We're right here. And then having that support of like minded is where we regain our stability, where we begin to heal from that space, not doing it alone, not needing
Mm-hmm.
fixing, not labeling ourselves as this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. So it's the disconnection from our own highest wisdom. And if we really tapped into that, it would be saying, they would be saying, you're fine. You're okay. Let's just do this. Let's do this and not fix.
Well said.
Letting go that something is wrong with us, I think really needs to be let go of.
Beautiful. That's a
Yeah.
perfect segue into my next question and topic, which is young people. So we've seen year over year since the pandemic, year over year, increasingly young people really struggling. Lots of teens, lots of young adults. Every week, I know Lynda and I have people reaching out on behalf of their child. Can microdosing help? My child is really struggling. And yes, sometimes and let's talk about these other things. So I'd love for Lynda, you start with this topic. I know you're very passionate about this subject. So I would love for your thoughts on people who might be listening who have a child or a young person, young adult in their life that's really struggling and is reaching out on behalf. Like, what would you say to them?
Well, yeah, for this generation, I mean, we're facing such high levels of anxiety and stress because there's so much uncertainty outside of us, right? They're overwhelmed. Where do I land? Who do I be? And there's this underlying hunger for purpose because we're told we're supposed to have a purpose, right? And what's the point of it all if the world's collapsing, right? And coming into this, I feel going against what the inner knowing already is, because there's the conditioned state trying to recondition a generation that's like, no, this doesn't feel right. This is going against what I know to be true. And then that's dysregulating the nervous system. So what they're really asking, I think, is how do I feel safe in the world? How do I feel safe? How do I make sense of me, my sensitivity? I don't believe this. I don't feel this way. I feel this way. And how do I not be the round peg trying to fit into a square? I mean, that was me too, right? And so, how do I belong in society without losing myself? And I think this is the first part that really this generation needs is a safe container, is a really safe container to be heard, to be seen, and to be felt. And our bodies right now need to be first. They need to be seen, heard, and felt. And so there's where that restoration. So if we can work with restoring that nervous system first, with especially this generation, then later on, we're not going to have all this going on, right? We can heal it now. So I think it's how to land in a safe place, how to belong, how to be loved, how to feel loved being me. And I think that's where we're at. When us as adults, we don't even know, right? So we're sitting here trying to condition a new generation coming in when we're like deconditioning ourselves. So it's confusion putting on confusion. And I think that's who do we look for? Right?
Yeah, I think the kids are on to us.
I most definitely. And then how do they have a voice in that? Right? How do they have a voice? So
yes.
safe adults who listen without fixing.
Amen. Yes. Yes.
Tools to regulate. And then permission to feel and be who we need to be. Again, let's let go of these labels.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I would like to reflect on this topic. You know, we work with a lot of people who are on many different prescription drugs and have had, in many cases, lots of years of therapy. And an interesting prompt we love to ask people that are coming into our community and programs often is, when you were originally put on this prescription, tell me about that. Like, what was going on in your life at that time? And I swear, like, the vast majority of the moments it was a healing opportunity. It was, for whatever reason, the universe spirit was conspiring that it was safe enough for this to come up, to be healed, to be held, right? And looked at and held with support and love. And instead, it was medicated and numbed and pushed through. And so it was not only oftentimes putting someone on a highly addictive drug, it was also bypassing the original opportunity that was there. And so when I work with so many adults now that are 30 years later, trying to now tap into that original healing that was presenting itself 30 years before. When I'm working with young people now, I really try to take the labels off of them, as Lynda said, like shine away from, oh, they're ADHD, or oh, they're bipolar, or all of these labels that we use to medicate people. let's not do that to young people. Like, let's instead see and hear them and witness what is coming up for them, because we can support them in this moment if we do that right, rather than kind of condemning them to a path of pushing it forward 30, 40 years of having to do
Mhm.
this down the road. And I think with young people in particular, it's such a beautiful opportunity to do that right now.
I feel that, yeah, so much. Again, we're bringing back that needing to fix something. Like there's just this always this needing to fix this person. And then what happens when we're putting on a youngin that they need fixing? Well, then I'm not good enough. And then that whole not enoughness, self-doubt thing comes in and keeps building and building. And teens, young adults, they need us to be present. They don't need pressure. They just need us to be present with them. So yeah, I this is kind of a pivotal time for this generation. And if we approach it with reverence and integrity, I think it can make huge changes for what's coming forward 20, 30 years from now. It'll make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
So it's opportunity. It's opportunity right now to work, do ourselves so that we're not just quick fixing to then make it more comfortable for us. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That last bit was key. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Let's talk about something that I'm laughing because I see all the people in my recent immersion. The range when you're starting out in practice. As I shared at the beginning of this episode, people are moving through their process very quickly now compared to what they did 5 years ago. And there's lots and lots of reasons for that. I think it's partly evolution and motion, right? The changes are coming faster now. The world is changing faster now. Um, when you were working in this process, I'd love for you to reflect, Lynda, like it's so unique. It's so individual. The experience you have with the medicine is going to be a confluence of so many different variables. So I would love for people who are starting their practice and wondering why it's not moving faster, or people who are wondering why so much is happening all at once. Some of those variables that we look at in supporting people at the beginning of their practice.
Yeah, good. Because we get so attached to what it's supposed to look like, right? I'm probably guilty of it myself going into it. I'm just going to take this medicine and then it's all going to come right into my power. Yeah, no, that's not what happened. We took a side path. Anyways, yeah, I mean, I think that we need to come into it remaining unattached. It's not the Western belief system that you take an aspirin, the headache goes away. I have people who begin microdosing, whether it's psilocybin or Amanita. Sometimes it's like immediate. Other people, it's a week. There's no right or wrong, because again, you are given what you're ready for, where you're ready to open, where it's safe and your nervous system feels safe enough. What if someone's going on psilocybin, they have all this space to do all their work, but this person's beginning with psilocybin and they don't? It's going to be two different experiences. So are we starting them out lower? Are we beginning them on Amanita and then working more into when space is available, as we were speaking earlier? So I think moving into this with curiosity, I mean, that's the power. Awareness is that healing, right? Awareness is the healing, and then we get to integrate it all. And it's so, what you need to heal versus what I'm ready to heal are two completely different things. Are we moving faster? I definitely feel we are. I feel time is speeding up. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well. And our veil is thinner. So we're also, I feel, we are in this time that is calling for us, the need for us to step up. And so that is going to move things faster, right? But then not to be over here going, well, I'm not moving as fast. There's something wrong with me, because that's going back to that not enoughness. And then that would be what would probably need to be working on before it starts moving, because the gifts and everything that needs to come through can't come through in this. And so it's really becoming an individual, a, working on a collective, but being an individual within that collective. And the medicines are love, they support. So, oh, they're being very gentle with me. I'm not ready for this big over here. Thank you. Right. Thank you for being gentle and guiding me. We as humans have such a hard time sitting in the unknown. And we're going to come up against outdated imprints. And when we hit those, they can be really, really uncomfortable because they're asking us to move out of an old version of us into a new version. And we don't know what that is. And that can feel, it can be exciting, but it can feel really, really uncomfortable because we've got an imprint that has been set there to protect us and we're breaking out of that. So moving through that does not have a time. It's not linear. So I would say that that would be, it's so individual. We're so used to, like, again, the round peg fitting into the square
Mm-hmm.
hole, right?
Absolutely. And that's to
Yeah.
me the gold of being in community with other people in the practice and having support and guide along the way is you get to see what it looks like all along the arc of practice. You know, a lot of the people in our community laugh now who were very kind of frustrated with how slow it was at the beginning. Now you're in like things are really moving to the point where they're highly uncomfortable because there's so much changing in them all the time and they're transforming so quickly. They laugh in hindsight at themselves for being frustrated because they're like, I could not have held this a year and a half ago. And same thing with the people that had a lot of movement up front. Now they have the steadiness to have a lot of the architecture of their life externally change now that they would not have been resourced before if they tried to like make all these changes in their life before they did the energetic and emotional work within. So yes, is we share with people often the medicine is always working. She's always working. She's always with you. She's always by your side. She's just
Yes.
sometimes working at a level and a wisdom that our human mind can't comprehend and is giving us exactly what we need. We just often can't see it without that reflection or that perspective and hindsight frequently.
Well, and how beautiful is it that we can go about our day and know the medicine's working and we don't have to be in it? How wonderful is it to go to sleep at night and know that the medicines are working as we bypass the rational mind and are doing the work without us having to excavate everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
think that's a big shift we're undergoing in our overculture right now. And I think the younger generations already know this intuitively
Mm-hmm.
that this whole work thing,
Yes,
this
they
whole
do.
work thing that we've set up here, like there's something flawed in that. And so, yes, I think a lot of times, especially people that we have worked with who are, you know, in the elder generations, sometimes the easefulness and the grace that the medicines gift you with, it's the rub is kind of receiving it because we're so conditioned we have to work hard at things. We have to earn love. We have to
Oh,
earn our
yeah,
health
that's a
and
big.
healing. And we
Mm.
get caught in these cycles of, right? Another modality and another pill and another thing that it sometimes things can happen and shift so quickly and you experience yourself in a whole new way that the the friction and the practice becomes letting go of that story around yourself, right?
That came through big for me in a journey when something came up that was really super uncomfortable. And I'm like, what do I do with this? Like, I don't even know what to do with this. And the medicine showed me to just take this, put it aside. You don't need this story. And there was like, they showed me many, many stories, hundreds and hundreds. Let it go, tend to your wound, and then move forward. So, and the tending to the wound was the awareness.
Mm.
not necessarily, again, going in and beating it to death, right? It was about, okay, I see and I hear you. The body was asking to be seen and heard. And so it is changing. Our structures are changing on how we heal. And people are it's going to be uncomfortable coming forward for people who are still clinging on to this is the way it's done, right? Both in the field and out of the field.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah. So, I mean, as we move into more of a synthetic world, right? Where there's AI, holograms, all that stuff coming forward, we're going to need to look at this as a observation and awareness without getting stuck in it, the looping, the ruminating. And that's where we're letting go of the story. And that helped me when I was showed that in my journey. Like, I was like, oh, I don't have to sit here and work this whole thing out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is a perfect time. While I have Lynda, a time with Lynda, I would be remiss to not to touch on dreams. So, something that's new for us, we are starting up our first ever microdosing for healing facilitator training program for professionals to learn guideship. And Lynda, thank you, is going to be teaching on dreams and microdosing because this is something, if you're new to practice, is a profound part of many people's experience the first 6 weeks. Many people start dreaming for the first time in many, many years. And speaking of being able to receive the easefulness of being able to heal in our sleep, literally, is brand new for people. So can you touch on this? I know this is a special love, love, love of yours.
So much. Yeah. Cause it's what I practice and have
Mm-hmm.
practiced. When I think sleep is our original medicine or is the number one medicine and dreams are the original journey. And the medicines are bringing us back to that, our own innateness inside. They're connecting us to wholeness. We're not just connected from, 7 to 9, like, throughout the day. We're things are happening when we're sleeping. And it's this beautiful time to bypass the rational mind, to learn to trust and go inward and have this information come through and connect with the soul on a level we're not doing when we're awake. And I use sleep and dream work integrating medicine journeys and for pre-integration, so pre and post for microdosing, taking it into the dream and seeing what comes up, because you're going to get something completely different. The soul's going to speak to you on a level that it's been screaming, right? It's been screaming and wanting to come through. So it only makes sense that when we're working with a spiritual being, the mushrooms, the medicines, that's going to start waking up. But then we're all confused. We're like, what's happening? What's going on? So it's really about learning to integrate. Here's the medicine. You're taking it to the dream, and then you're integrating what comes up into the dream in this space, right? So the power of it is, I can't even tell you how powerful it is, because it develops this trust within us when we start working in that sleep state. And that's what we're looking for, is trust in the self, right? The enoughness, the worthiness, the not having to earn. And we're doing that while we sleep.
Mm-hmm.
When we're
Yeah.
not, yeah. However, we need to restore our REM. We need REM restoration. We need the NREM. We need all of that stuff restored. And that's why I pair Amanita with that too, bringing that in. And because without that, we're really dysregulated. I mean, did you know that just even tracking your dream, just writing down symbols, you don't even have to figure out what it's saying, is going to elongate and improve short and long-term memory, your cognitive function. Your NREM is working with the beta amyloid protein linked to Alzheimer's. So we need sleep. We need to sleep. And why not ask for a healing? Why not ask to be held? I needed this the other night. It was a week, and I'm like, I just need to be held and loved tonight. That's all I need. And I had a dream where a woman was hugging me and I was standing in front of a full moon. Like it was so simple and so beautiful, but I could feel myself soothed in the morning. So I think the medicines lead us to these places where they can get through to, where we can hear them and see them, where during the day we still may be too dysregulated for that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I could go on about dreams, but I think it's missing in our integration process. I think Amanita and dreams and sleep are that missing puzzle piece that can kind of bring in that whole so that we're not having to do so much.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think this, for many of you listening and going, oh, maybe that's why I'm so tired when I'm microdosing, and maybe I get hit with those waves of fatigue. It's an invitation from spirit. Often I've noticed, in supporting people, it's always the people that are most mental, the most highest mentally stimulated people, the doers. They're always productive. They're never, sitting still. Those tend to be people who very often, when they start microdosing, get hit by waves of fatigue. And they're like, I'm just going to bed early at night. I'm taking naps. And so, what Lynda just shared, that's what's really going on, right? And so, think of it less as a frustration and more of an invitation to the medicine. The healing is coming through your sleep. And sometimes spirit literally needs to knock us out to get us to stop thinking, to provide us with those spiritual access points so that
Mm.
our soul we can hear our soul again and bypass that chatter of the mind that happens in our waking state. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. And that adrenaline chemical we so love is down when we're in our REM. It's down. So the nervous system has a moment to soothe. If we're missing REM, we're not. We're dysregulated there. Yeah. And that's a beautiful, the way you put that was maybe the medicine's saying, go to sleep. I need to talk to you. Right. So and maybe that's what it's saying. You need to sleep. However, we don't look at sleep as a medicine. We don't look at it as something that, well, I want to do on the medicines is sleep. Okay, start there. How fun. Sleep. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yes.
Totally agreed. I know a lot of folks listening probably have had their curiosity piqued and are like, oh, what they described, that's me. Kind of overwhelmed, feeling discombobulated, hard to ground, very scattered. Amanita might be for me and what I need in this moment. So, can we dive into? I know a lot of them are going to have questions about how the protocol is similar or dissimilar than psilocybin microdosing, and also some of how you contemplate if someone it's beneficial for them to dose in the morning hours versus kind of before bedtime hours.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful. Because they are very different. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're very different, but they're both teachers, right? So where psilocybin's working with serotonin, again, Amanita's working with GABA. So protocol, how I work with Amanita is depending on where you're at. If you're pretty dysregulated, I mean, your nervous system, you have that functioning anxiety, you've got insomnia. If it's functioning anxiety that we're really wanting to approach first, we're going to start in the morning. If it's insomnia, sleep dysregulation, we're going to start more towards the evening. And I, especially lately, I didn't used to do it this way, but now I'm putting people 30 days straight, just this 30 days straight Amanita. Let's get that restored. And then if it feels right, bring in psilocybin. So then we would want to do, if we're microdosing psilocybin, which we can alongside Amanita with the different receptors, we would want, if we're doing psilocybin in the morning, later, like at least give a couple, 3 hours to give the medicine its space. I like when people start on a medicine to just do that, whether it's, psilocybin or Amanita, LSD, whatever we're working with, to see how it works with our body. And then we can add in if it's needed. So for myself, I started with Amanita at night because that's when I needed it. A time period went by where I can't take it at night anymore. I'm too much in a in between space, a liminal space.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't take her past 1 o'clock. Doesn't mean anything's wrong. It just means she wants to work with me differently now. And so I take her more in the morning, early afternoon. So we play around with it. We kind of don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of don't know. It's based on, is it anxiety I'm working for first? That's my first and foremost, or is it sleep?
Mm-hmm. And it's very intuitive too.
Mm.
I think that's another big thing that we've shifted in the last 5 years. We used to work within strict, somewhat structured protocols specifically that were more standard because we just didn't know. But I think after working with hundreds and thousands of people and seeing and recognizing patterns in people, a lot of times it can be very helpful to check in with a guide who does have a lot of experience with people because we'll very often have the intuition morning for this person, evening for this person, split the dose between the two. And again, it's part of just being open to the guidance of the medicine. The medicine kind of comes through us too to support other people frequently. So we're
Yeah.
sharing these kind of parameters, but just know sometimes you might be a completely specific case that we might recommend something altogether different for you.
We might need to take two Amanitas. One in
Mhm.
the morning after a week. I usually have them try it for a week. We check in. Do we need to adjust this any? Do we need to move it back by a couple hours? Or, do we need to add one in the morning and one in the afternoon? Yeah.
Mhm.
So there's no specific protocol, but we'll start you out on one usually. And then I'll usually move them after 30 days to more of either a 5-2, 4-2, just kind of 4-3, just kind of seeing how that works. And we'll play around with it more on that second month, especially if we're bringing in psilocybin or going back to microdosing psilocybin. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. And a couple of things that I just so love. So Lynda presented a deep dive on Amanita for our community. Those of you who are in our community, you can watch the replay and check that out. It was fascinating. One of the things I thought was so neat is that humans can't grow Amanita.
Don't you love that?
I
Yes.
I thought that that was excellent. Yeah.
I yeah, that is such a beautiful she has such a beautiful symbiotic relationship with the forest. Like it's mycorrhizal with these trees and the root systems. Yes. It's special. She's special.
Yes, and old.
Old,
It's
yeah. Known as
mhm.
the elder and the wise one of all the mushrooms. We see her in Soma in the Bible, petroglyphs and caves. The Vikings would take her before going to battle. And it would say it energized, but what I think it probably did was soothe their nervous system because who wants to go up to battle? So that then they were more energized. We're
Mhm.
looking at addiction in Siberia, right?
Yes.
Working with
Yes.
different coping mechanisms. Yeah. So it's just, I mean, it just goes back. And she's so understudied.
Yes.
And I think she likes it that way.
Yes, I do too. I do too. Is That's another misconception I think we hear frequently from people, especially people who have a lot on their plates, like a lot of responsibilities. Sometimes they're running companies or have a big family and young children, is they're worried about being off their game. And that's one of the things that's so eye-opening for people is they're like, how can I be calm and relaxed and easygoing? Like, am I going to lose my edge? Am I going to lose my my huntress side to myself? Absolutely not. It actually, in my experience witnessing people, it actually dials that in and focuses that in to a clarity and a sharpness. And so we as humans, like, our longevity and performance enhancement at work used to be hunting skills or gifts of prophecy and being treated as an oracle. So we have different applications depending on which moment in history we're moving through. But these medicines, and particularly Amanita, has been with us for many, 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 many. many tens of thousands of years. Yeah.
Well, and in our face, really, when you look at the emoji and how she shows up. But as a medicine, she's stepping forward now. Again, medicine's for the moment, right? And that's how
Mm-hmm.
they work.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So getting started with Amanita, I'm collected some questions from our community when we presented Amanita. Um, sometimes morning, sometimes evening, and also you can kind of take more, right, of a quantity of Amanita than you can psilocybin. Correct?
Yes. Yeah. It's so different because you're looking at a gram of Amanita or a half a gram of Amanita as being a dose, where if you were to take that in psilocybin, you'd be having an experience.
Yes.
So yes, the dosing, I usually start people about 400 to 500 milligrams.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And that comes
So
typically in a capsule?
in a capsule. Yes. Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. And for those
And you
folks
can
that,
take up to you can take actually up to 6 a day. I don't recommend that. I don't have anybody doing that, but that is the cap on that. So
okay. And for those people who are brand new, I mean, people who are listening to the podcast probably are very familiar with psilocybin mushrooms. People who are brand new to Amanita, who may have heard, well, isn't Amanita the poisonous mushroom?
yeah, yeah.
Yes, right. So can you dispel some of that mythology? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a fly agaric. It gets mixed up with the Amanita, the death cap, right? So the death cap has amatoxins in it that will actually shut down our liver and kidney. Amanita does not. Do we eat her out of nature? No. Will we get sick? Yeah, probably not feel very good. However, she needs to go through a big prep process. We're after the muscimol, like that's her superpower. So we want to decarb the ibotenic acid out into more muscimol. And so it goes through this big decarb process. And so when we look at something that is fully decarbed version of Amanita, that's what it's talking about. It's been through this dehydration process. The ibotenic acid is out of it, and it just contains muscimol. This then is safe for our own consumption. So poisonous, no. I think the only deaths they've really recorded with Amanita had something else in it.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So, but it's the death cap, which is yellow.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And no spots, yellow. The one there is a yellow Amanita with spots, and that one is not it's not used for microdosing. It's a little bit less potent. We're not going to feel as much off of that one. So
It's beautiful too.
I
One of the
know.
members in our community just sent photos from her
Yes,
yard of some beautiful yellow.
it is
Yeah,
really pretty.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's almost golden. It's beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. Is there anything else, Lynda, you would love to share? Just kind of a snapshot of present day, anything that you're seeing a lot in your clients this year that you think would be helpful to kind of put a marker down for people who are transitioning back to microdosing practice or starting a new one?
Yeah, I think culturally we're really dysregulated. We're becoming disconnected, and that goes against our inner being. We've got AI and the stuff's going to happen. It's going to come forward. It's just going to continue, which is fine. But the importance of staying connected to nature, staying connected to ourselves, to culture, and the essence of our soul. Otherwise, we're going against it, and that alone will dysregulate it. And so I think the remembering and getting into the space of remembering who we are is going to only empower us. It's not going to change what's happening out here, but we're going to feel a little bit more grounded and empowered and really walking on that sovereign edge of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then then we have the ability and the strength and the energy to make the changes that need to be made moving forward. And for years to come, we're talking decades. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. I would share one of the things that I hear repeatedly right now in all my intake forms is people. are no longer willing to settle for managing symptoms. They want more than that. They want more. And they're ready to feel more and kind of feel the full spectrum of possibility. Yes, I don't want to be as sad and I don't want to be as anxious anymore, but I also want to be able to feel wonder and joy and surprise and feel in love with life again. And I've just kind of been feeling this low level growing numbness. I don't want that anymore. And so a lot of people are coming with this really, it's really powerful readiness for change and transformation. And then the friction is being able to, as Lynda shared, sit in that uncertainty of not knowing necessarily what it's going to look like, and settle first on developing your own resourcing, developing your own sense in yourself, trust in yourself, awareness of yourself, and then life takes off for you. We see it over and over and over again. So it's really, really, I think the defining practice of this year is really being able to work with your emotions and become kind of a Jedi of emotional mastery. Because what I see in people, they start microdosing and the medicines just stretch them. And all of a sudden, they're having big emotions. They're having grief they have not felt with such depth, joy that they have not, these glimmers of like an expanding sense of self. And that can be stretchy and really unfamiliar and uncomfortable. But this is kind of, I think, that the mastery that evolution is pushing us towards is being able to work with our emotions, translate the communication the spirit is coming through us through our emotion. And that's really going to be the defining factor of how our lives go and our entire lineages go from here, is those of us who are able to step into that level of development as humans, versus the other path.
What? Yes.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and we're tired of being shut down, and that's what everything, it's just been shutting down everything, and it's time to restore and feel, right? And yeah, and be okay with being sad in a moment, because we're here to feel. That's why we're in these vessels, is to feel our emotions and have all these experiences. And we can't have all these experiences without all these emotions. But then we become more responding to them, nurturing them rather than reacting, because they've been shut down. And then when they stop being shut down, it's like the box opens and we're like, whoa, what do we do? So the emotional regulation within is what we're learning to do. That's really what we're learning to do. And that's powerful.
The most.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you so much, as always, for hanging with me.
This is fun. Yeah, always fun.
Thank you so, so much, everybody, for listening and being part of our community. You have an open invitation to join us in our community. We gather monthly with live coaching, experts like Lynda presenting on different medicines, oracle sessions. And we also have professional programs for those of you on the path to become aspiring or microdosing guides, educating others in the field. So thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Microdosing for Healing podcast. Ready to take the next step? Please visit us online at microdosingforhealing.com. There you'll find lots of information about our global community, professional training programs, and upcoming immersions. See you there.